Heartwarming rescue, struggling dad saves beaten mom and child days later, incredible truth exposed. Jack's heart raced as he locked up the garage, the chill of the icy rain piercing through his worn jacket. All he could think about was getting home to Tyler, whose bright smile always flooded his world with warmth. Just as he turned to leave, he heard muffled cries, a sound so raw it made the hair on the back of his neck stand on end. Curiosity, mixed with dread, pulled him toward the nearby alley. When he peered around the corner, a gut-wrenching scene unfolded. A frail mother shielded her small daughter, Mia, from an imposing figure with fists clenched like iron. Jack's stomach twisted. The sight ignited a blend of anger and fear inside him. Without even thinking, he stepped forward, adrenaline igniting his instincts. It wasn't just his job on the line, the lives of two innocent souls hung in the balance. There was no time for hesitation, his heart screamed for action. "Leave them alone," he shouted, voice booming through the alley. The husband's furious gaze shifted, and for a split second, Jack felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. All he could imagine was Tyler, a mirror of innocence, caught in the same nightmare. That fleeting thought fueled his bravery. Days later, the town of Maplewood buzzed with his heroism. Neighbors who rarely acknowledged Jack now offered warm lunches and heartfelt words, their gratitude washing over him like a comforting tide. Yet, whispers of Jack's past were like shadows trailing behind him, moments of struggle, of failure. Some nodded in approval, yet others looked at him with suspicion. Social class reared its ugly head, judging him not as a man who helped but as someone with a murky history. Amidst the swirling rumor mill, Jack fought to maintain the fragile balance he'd built for Tyler. The air was thick with tension. What would Tyler think if his dad were branded a hero, only to be judged for his choices? As if scripted by fate, a fresh wound opened. Mia's father was not an ordinary brute but a man loved by many, a prominent figure with political ties in Maplewood. Suddenly it felt like Jack had stepped onto a dangerous game board where the stakes had turned deadly. As Jack navigated the fallout, the weight of privilege and power pressed against him. The harsh reality pulled at his heartstrings. Could he protect his son from the repercussions of his stand for justice? Jack found himself questioning his own bravery. Was it worth it if it meant Tyler could pay the price? The community's eyes pinned him, waiting for valor, while he braced for the storm brewing on the horizon. Just as he pressed forward, determination fueling his resolve, sirens pierced the stillness. The police arrived, a glaring light in the gathering dark, illuminating the dilemma he faced. This was no longer just about righting a wrong, it was a fight for their future. At that moment, with dawn's light creeping over Maplewood, he stood at a crossroads. Would his act of kindness be the beacon of hope or the tipping point of despair? Jack's heartbeat thundered in his chest, preparing him for the battle ahead, but uncertainty loomed like a specter. What lay ahead could change everything. Jack stood there, the faint sound of sirens fading into the distance as he felt the weight of the world pressing against his chest. Anxiety coiled within him. Gripping his car keys tightly, he glanced back down the alley where Mia and her mother had vanished from view. His resolve was a fragile thread, fraying under the scrutiny of a community that seemed eager to decide his fate for him. What comes next? He muttered to himself, eyes fixed on the horizon where the first rays of sunlight battled with the lingering shadows of night. He could already imagine the whispers spreading through Maplewood, like wildfire, a hero turned into a villain by circumstance. Just then, a familiar voice broke through his thoughts. "Jack! Jack!" It was Sarah, his neighbor and a single mom with 2 kids. She rushed toward him, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "Did you hear about the meeting tonight?" she panted, glancing back as if fearing the eyes of judgment were already on them. "What meeting?" Jack asked, trying to mask his growing apprehension. "They're gathering at the town hall to discuss, well, you know what you did." His stomach dropped. It felt as if all eyes were watching him, measuring his worth. "What do they want from me?" he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's not just about you," she said, her brow furrowed with worry. "People want to talk about how to protect others. Like Mia's mom. They want to know if they should be scared." Jack's heart ached at the thought. He had stood up for them, but now it felt like the spotlight had turned into a noose. Would they applaud his bravery or condemn him for provoking a powerful man? With Sarah's steady gaze holding his, Jack felt a part of himself stir. Maybe this was a chance not just to protect Tyler, but to fight for the values he believed in. He needed to show them that standing against injustice meant fighting for all their futures. "Okay," he said, straightening. "I'll go." He gave her a nod, but inside, fear churned. The evening air was thick with tension as Jack made his way to the town hall later that night. A small crowd buzzed outside, murmurs caught like whispers in the wind. As he stepped into the room, the atmosphere shifted. Faces turned, some eager, others cautious. "Jack!" called out Mrs. Peterson, the town's mayor and a determined woman in her 60s. "We need to hear from you. What happened that night?" The room's energy crackled as Jack drew a deep breath. He spoke about courage and the need for community. He couldn't help but think of Tyler, of how he'd want his dad to see the good in people. But as he looked around, he noticed a dark figure lurking near the back, a man in an expensive suit, arms folded with a mocking smile. Jack's pulse quickened. That was Mia's father, the figure that had twisted his world into chaos. Before Jack could gather his thoughts, a voice cut through the murmurs, stronger and sharper than the rest. "Do we want someone like him representing us? A man with a past?" Gasps echoed around the room, and Jack's heart sank. He could feel sweat break on his brow as he grasped the gravity of the moment. Before he knew it, he was fighting against an oncoming tide, pushing back to reclaim his dignity in front of those who mattered most. Would he remain strong, or would the darkness of judgment consume him? Jack knew he had to stand firm, not just for himself, but for Tyler, for Mia, for every person who had ever felt the sting of injustice. But would that be enough? The tension in the air thickened as Jack faced the challenge in front of him. Would he find his voice amid the chaos, or would fear overtake him? Jack felt the room narrowing around him. The murmur was a wave swelling against the rocky shore, a building tide, ready to crash. He could sense the community's unease, their whispers loud in the silence. They needed an answer from him, but uncertainty swirled in his chest like a storm. "Listen," he began, his voice quaking slightly but growing steadier. "What happened that night, it wasn't about me. It was about protecting those who can't protect themselves." He cleared his throat, trying to lock eyes with anyone who might give him a sign of support. The man in the back shifted, still wearing that smug look. Jack's instinct screamed at him here was the true heart of the matter. He was nothing but a pawn in a larger game, but the people before him weren't just spectators. They were mothers, fathers, friends. Could he turn their fear into hope? A woman in the front, Sarah, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, suddenly stood. "We understand the need to protect others, Jack. But we all have families to think about too. Mia's father has influence." Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I know," Jack replied, his heart pounding. "But if we're afraid to stand up, his influence only grows stronger. This isn't just about Mia's family, it's about all of us. If we remain silent, who will be there to speak for those who can't?" Sarah, his neighbor, stepped forward beside him. "We need each other. This community needs to come together. It's not easy, but if we stand strong, if we stand united, we won't be bullied into silence." Several heads nodded around the room, and it felt like a spark igniting amidst the anxiety. Jack realized then that this was just his fight, it was everyone's. Mia's father shifted again, clearly annoyed. "This isn't just about courage or heroics. You put your family at risk, Jack. And now, we all have to deal with the fallout of your reckless choices." His tone oozed disdain, scorn emanating from his fine suit and polished shoes. "I rather deal with the fallout caused by my decisions than live with the regret of not acting when I could," Jack retorted, a fire igniting within him. "I'm not asking for support, I'm demanding it. Together, we can stand against this fear." The room erupted into murmurs again, a mixture of doubt and encouragement rippling through the crowd. Suddenly, Mrs. Peterson raised her hand, calling for quiet. "Let us hear as many voices as we can tonight. If we want to protect our families, we must discuss our fears openly. Only then can we truly move forward." Jack felt a small rush of relief as faces turned toward him with curiosity instead of judgment. It was a flicker of hope amidst the chaos. But just then, a slamming door echoed through the hall, and every head turned to see a young mother stumble in, breathless. I have to speak," she gasped, scanning the room with wide, fearful eyes. "It's about Mia and her mom. Things are worse than you know." A chill ran through Jack, and the air felt heavy again. What new danger lurked behind those words? As silence fell once more, he realized this fight was only just beginning. The revelations waiting in the shadows were more profound than he could ever have imagined. Was he ready to face the truth? Would the community rally together or further fracture under the weight of what was to come? His heart raced with anticipation. There was no turning back now. The room fell into an intense hush, the weight of the mother's words pressing down like a thick fog. Jack's heart raced. What could be worse? He glanced around the room, searching for encouragement. He needed the community's support now more than ever. The young mother, Emily, took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "I just found out. Mia's mom is in serious trouble. Her father he's not just a powerful man, he's dangerous, and he's been threatening Maria if she ever tries to leave." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Jack's stomach churned. He had seen that same tainted ambition in Mia's father, but hearing it confirmed was like a punch to the gut. Emily continued, her voice shaking. "I thought it was just rumors, but last night, I saw them together. Her father was shouting, 'I'm scared for her.' Mia saw everything. She can't go back home. We can't let that happen." Fear simmered in the air, and Jack felt it tangling with the flickers of hope that had started to emerge. He looked at the faces around him. Fear had a way of uniting and dividing all at once. But which way would it tip this time? He stepped forward again, heart pounding. "Emily, thank you for speaking up. It takes courage to share something like that. But we can't live in fear of what Mia's father might do. We have to act. We can protect them together." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Encouraged, Jack continued, "If we know Mia and her mom are in danger, we can't sit on our hands. We need a plan. We need to figure out how to get them the help they need." Murmurs shifted into discussions, people leaning toward each other, sharing ideas. Jack felt a wave of warmth. Something was building here, an understanding, a collective determination. But then, Mia's father standing in the back snapped, his voice dripping with contempt. "And what do you think you're going to do, Jack? You think you can save them with your little speeches? You're just a fool playing with fire." Jack's jaw tightened. "You can belittle me all you want, but I'll be damned if I stand by while you destroy another family. This isn't just another game for me. It's real. And I won't let you intimidate us into silence." The atmosphere shifted tense again, as the crowd absorbed the weight of Jack's words. Suddenly, someone yelled from the back, "What are we waiting for? Let us help them." Cheering erupted, cleansing the dread that loomed overhead. Encouraged voices began to catalogue ideas. Who would speak to Child Protective Services? Who would reach out to Maria and Mia? Plans started forming in a fervor of purpose. But then a loud crash echoed through the door. The crowd spun around, and none other than Mia burst in, her eyes wide and frantic. "I need help. My mom, she's not safe. Jack felt the chill run down his spine again. Every fear he had harbored crystallized in that instant. The stakes were escalating in ways he could never predicted. Please, Mia pleaded, her voice breaking. We need to get her out before it's too late. Jack locked eyes with her, the world around fading as determination coursed through him. Time was running out. Would they all unite for a cause greater than themselves? Or would fear tether them back into silence? As Mia's fragile voice cut through the tension, Jack realized that the next fight was just beginning and he had a choice to make. Could he lead them into a storm, or would he falter under the weight of the truth? The room's energy crackled with urgency, shadows dancing under the flickering lights as Mia's desperate plea hung in the air. Jack could see the fear in her eyes, a mirror to his own turmoil. Every instinct screamed for action, but a heavy dread settled in his chest. Mia, he said, moving cautiously toward her. Take a breath. We're going to help you. But we need to know everything. She nodded, but hesitation danced behind her big brown eyes. I don't know how much time we have. My father, he seems to know everything. I overheard him talking about sending my mom away, far away. Gasps spread through the crowd again, fueling the fire in Jack's heart. We'll figure this out, he reassured her, glancing at Emily and the others. He watched as faces filled with determination. Ideas bounced around the room, hands waving, voices rising. We can contact the police. One shouted. Maybe get an attorney involved. Another suggested. Will the police really help? Mia's voice trembled, laced with doubt. Jack felt that familiar fire within him. They have to, Jack replied firmly. If we present them with enough evidence, they can't ignore us. We need to document everything. Mia took a hesitant step forward, the fear in her expression pulling him in. But my dad, he'll be watching us, Jack interrupted, that's already a danger for you and your mother. But we won't let him keep that power over us. The room erupted with fervent discussions, energy fueling the air even as the reality of the situation loomed over them like a storm cloud. Jack felt a surge of hope, pushing him to keep the momentum alive. Listen. He called, cutting through the chatter. We need volunteers. Who's willing to stake out Mia's house, gather evidence? We need a game plan before we do anything that might draw her father's attention. Mia's fingers clenched into fists, tears shimmering as she squeezed her eyes shut. What if he finds out? What if he hurts us? Jack stepped closer, letting his voice soften. We're all in this together. You're not alone anymore. We'll protect you. A woman from the back, Sarah, rose slowly. I'll go with her tonight. I know how to find out what's happening without being seen. The crowd rallied around Sarah, expressions shifting from fear to courage. The atmosphere thickened with a shared purpose, each heart beating in rhythm with the urgency of their mission. Jack felt it too, a sense of belonging swelling inside him. They were a community, and these people scattered but bound together by a shared cause were ready to make a stand. An hour later, as darkness fell over their small town, Mia and Sarah slipped into the night with a heavy weight on their shoulders. Jack watched them go, adrenaline coursing through him. Be careful, he whispered to the shadows, his heart racing. He turned back to the rest of the group. Who can organize transportation for Mia's mom? We need a safe place to keep her until we figure this out, he instructed, mobilizing the crowd. Ideas flew, names and phone numbers exchanged, as everyone solidified their commitment to the cause. But as they rallied, a pulse of apprehension beat underneath the surface. It was one thing to plan, it was another to execute. What if they didn't harbor enough strength or couldn't protect Mia's mother from her father's wrath? Jack felt those doubts clawing at him as another idea struck. What if we bring the community together in force? A show of numbers might scare him off. We can't be quiet about this anymore. We need to raise awareness. Murmurs of agreement swirled around him, but one shadow loomed large. What if their defiance only fueled her father's rage? Jack shook off the thoughts. They had to focus on hope. They had to believe change was possible. As the night deepened, and plans took shape, Jack wondered if they were truly prepared for the fight ahead. The thought lingered heavy in his mind. What would happen when they finally made their move? And as the clock ticked on, Jack knew that the real test of their courage was yet to come. Would they face the storm together or be swept away by the winds of fear? The air was thick with anticipation as the meeting broke up, each person aware of the weight of the night ahead. Jack stood a little longer, anchored by a bubbling mix of dread and adrenaline. The others drifted away, voices fading, leaving him with swirling thoughts and an ache in his chest that wouldn't dissipate. He glanced at his phone, the dim light illuminating the faces of friends who had pledged their help. They were counting on him, but doubt trickled through his mind like a slow poison. If something went wrong tonight, Jack. Emily's voice sliced through his reverie. She approached, concern etching her features. Are you okay? Yeah, just thinking. He forced a smile. Mia and Sarah will be fine, right? Of course. They've got each other, she said, but her eyes held a flicker of uncertainty that mirrored his own fears. But maybe we should keep close tabs on them? Good idea, Jack agreed, grateful for her practicality. Let us set up a group chat to stay in touch tonight. As they set to work, organizing themselves into teams, Jack's nerves spiked again. They needed every detail right. He had no idea what obstacles lay ahead, only that they couldn't afford to fail. Mia's safety depended on their actions. Minutes stretched into hours. Reports began pouring in from the stakeout team stationed at Mia's house. Sarah's updates were brief and punctuated with tension. Quiet on the streets, she wrote. They arrived home, Mia's dad is inside. Little jolts of fear raced through Jack with every ping of his phone. They were exhausting themselves with worry for two people who might find themselves in danger at any moment. Let us keep it going. No one sleeps until we're sure they're safe, he called out, rallying the group again. The energy of the room shifted as exhaustion met determination, yet they pressed on. Hours crawled past. Texts came in with sporadic observations. Lights off, Sarah said. Jack's heart sank for a moment. Was that a good sign or a bad one? A place where patience turned maddening was setting in. He fidgeted, consumed by an overwhelming sense of urgency. What if Mia's father discovered their plans? What if they took drastic measures? Jack felt it like a storm brewing just outside their door. Suddenly, the phone buzzed violently on the table. Everyone's head snapped toward it. Jack's heart leaped as he snatched it up. Sarah's name flashed on the screen, but her message felt like a punch to the gut. Something's wrong. Mia's dad is acting strange. The room fell silent. Jack swallowed hard, pulse racing. What do you mean? He's looking for something, checking the house. I don't know what to do. I think he suspects us. Jack's mind spun. They were running out of time. We have to get them out of there. Now, he urged the group, adrenaline lending him strength. People jumped into action, shouting plans, calling phones, but he focused on the screen. Can you get to the car? He typed desperately. Not yet. Wait. The harshness of reality hit him like ice water. Every second felt pivotal. Jack knew they had to act and fast. Could they really pull this off? The walls of the room seemed to close in around him, yet he also could see the glitter of hope in everyone's eyes, a shared belief that they could change this situation. Stay low, he messaged Sarah, and as he did, his eyes moved to the others assembled, ready for anything. We can do this. A collective breath, a moment of silence, and then an eruption of voices as plans spun into action. They were still a community, and together, they could rise against the storm. As Jack looked out into the night, the shadows felt heavier than before. Yet hope was a quiet fire that simmered. How far they would have to go to protect Mia and her mother remained unknown, but the heart of the group beat with a fierce rhythm, an undeniable anthem of resilience. And just then, as they prepared to execute their plan, a siren wailed in the distance, a chilling reminder that the fight was only just beginning. What awaited them next would challenge them in ways they never imagined. The siren's wail echoed down the street, cutting through the thick tension like a knife. Jack's heart raced, every beat reminiscent of his relentless pounding in his chest. "We need to move, now," he shouted, the urgency in his voice waking everyone up from their daze. Emily darted for the window, peering out into the night. "There's a cop car at the end of the block," she warned. The streetlights flickered eerily, casting strange shadows across the ground. It felt like the world outside was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. "What do we do?" one of their friends, Alex, asked, panic creeping into his tone. Jack took a moment to think, steadying himself. "We split into groups. Emily, you and Alex go to the left side of the street. Keep an eye on the car. If it moves, let us know. The rest of us will head to the back entrance of Mia's house. We'll create a distraction if needed." Everyone nodded, determination replacing fear in their eyes. With a silent understanding, they fell into a rhythm, racing out of the house and into the night. Jack felt his adrenaline coursing through him. They were a pack of wolves, fierce and united, driven by the desire to protect their own. As they ran, the siren was getting closer, a reminder that time was slipping through their fingers. "This has to work," Jack murmured to himself, desperation creeping into his thoughts. What if Mia's dad was already out looking for them? Or worse, what if he was still inside, turning that home into a prison? A sudden shout made them all freeze. It was Sarah, ducking low and waving wildly, her breath coming in quick bursts. "He's coming out," she whispered harshly. Jack's heart dropped. He motioned to the others, and they crouched behind a nearby bush, crash-landing into instinct as they watched. Mia's father stepped outside, his figure looming under the porch light. He looked furious, scanning the darkness, eyes darting as if he could see through the shadows. Jack's stomach twisted, it took everything in him not to jump up and run. He needed to stay focused, for Mia, for her mom. They had to get them to safety. "Mia!" her father barked, voice cutting through the night like harsh steel. "Get out here now." There was no reply. Jack held his breath, waiting for any sign at all. What if they were too late? Suddenly, a door creaked open. Mia stepped out, fear etched on her face but holding her mother's hand firmly. Jack's heart lifted, but it quickly sank again as he noticed the tension radiating from Mia's father. "Leave her alone," Jack shouted before he could stop himself. The group tensed beside him, realizing the risk he had just taken. The man turned sharply, eyes blazing with anger. "Who's there?" Jack's mind raced. He couldn't let him hurt Mia or her mom. They had come this far. He had to get them out. "Here!" Jack yelled, stepping out from the shadows, hands raised to show he meant no harm. "Just let them go. You don't want to do this." Mia's father took a step toward him, fury etched into every line of his face. "You don't know who you're messing with, kid. Get back." The air crackled with tension, a standoff under the streetlight. Jack could feel sweat pooling on his brow, every muscle taut and ready to spring. He had to keep them safe, and the stakes felt higher than ever. "Please, we just want to help," he begged, heart pounding. Mia squeezed her mother's hand tighter, hoping Jack's voice was strong enough to break through the chaos. Then, from the corner of his eye, Jack noticed movement. Emily was signaling frantically. The cop car had begun to inch forward, lights flashing as if answering Jack's unspoken plea for help. But would it be enough? Stay back. Mia's father shouted, but the siren's wail began to drown his voice. Jack's heart raced not just with fear, but a ferocious hope. Would they finally escape the nightmare? The moment felt electric, fraught with uncertainty. What would happen if the police got involved? Would it be enough to protect the very people he had risked everything for? As all eyes turned toward the advances of the cop car, the air thick with anticipation, Jack realized their fight was about to reach a breaking point. With everything on the line, how would it all unfold? Jack's heart pounded as he stood there, exposed and desperate. The cop car was moving closer, lights spinning like a beacon of hope piercing through the darkness. But Mia's father was still rooted, rage radiating from him like heat off asphalt. Let them go. Jack called out again, his voice shaking but unwavering. He could see Mia's eyes, wide with fear, pleading silently for him to keep her safe. He was ready to do anything to protect her and her mother, no matter the cost. Get back, kid! Her father roared, and Jack felt a chill run down his spine. He took a half-step forward, every instinct screaming at him to retreat, but he had come this far. If he didn't act now, he might lose them both. Just then, the cop car screeched to a halt, tires crunching on gravel. The sound echoed sharply in the still night, a siren's song of impending authority. Two officers exited the vehicle, their expressions shifting from confusion to determination as they assessed the scene. "Mister, we need you to step away from the girl," one officer shouted, hand hovering near his holster. Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it quickly morphed into panic. Would this escalate even further? Mia's father stepped back, face reddening. "This is none of your business," he barked, but the two officers moved in, their stances firm and protective. Jack noticed that Mia's dad seemed to shrink under the weight of their presence. "I've got every right to take care of my family." He spat, his bravado cracking. "Stand down," the second officer commanded, calm but authoritative. "Let the girls go. We can sort this out without anyone getting hurt." It was a tense standoff, the air thick with unresolved emotion. Jack held his breath as time seemed to stretch, fear and hope entwined like vines. Would the officers see through Mia's father's bluster? Then Mia's mother spoke up, her voice shaky but steady, cutting through the fog of confusion. "Please just let us go. We don't want to be here anymore." Jack's heart soared at her words. Just like that, the dam broke. Mia's father opened and closed his mouth, rage twisting into something else, something darker, more desperate. He looked torn, unable to decide between clinging to his manufactured authority and letting go of the control he had over them. "Dad, let us go." Mia's voice broke through, a trembling plea that echoed in Jack's chest. "You can't keep doing this." With those words, everything shifted. "No!" her father shouted, but deep down, the fight began to fade. The officers stepped forward, and the distance seemed to close even more. Jack took a breath, feeling the weight of the world pressing against his ears. He had to know what was next. The moment hung there, fragile yet electric, as the air buzzed with possibilities. It was a moment made for change, for decisions that would ripple through the rest of their lives. Then came a chilling sound, a crunch of gravel from behind him. Jack turned slightly, fear prickling at the nape of his neck. Could it be another threat, another complication? Before he could react, a second figure stepped out of the shadows, joining the fray. Jack's heart sank. Who else was here? And what were they planning to do? As the tension escalated, Jack's thoughts raced. Would they all make it out alive? Or were they about to plunge deeper into chaos? No matter what, Jack knew he had to be ready for anything. The choices made in the next moments would define them all. Would they break free, or be dragged further into the nightmare? He tightened his fists, determined to protect Mia and her mother at all costs. The night was closing in, but the fight for their freedom had just begun. The figure that emerged from the shadows was tall and muscular, silhouetted against the glow of the cop car's lights. Jack's heart sank further. It was Ethan, Mia's uncle. His presence sent waves of tension crashing through the air. Though he had always been a calming force in the family, tonight his expression was anything but reassuring. "Mia, get back!" Ethan barked, his voice a mix of authority and concern. He stepped forward, positioning himself between her and her father, his eyes scanning the scene, sensing the brewing storm around them. "Uncle Ethan," Mia's voice trembled, torn between relief and confusion. She took a small step forward, needing the comfort of her family but lacking trust in the situation. "Stay put," he commanded, glancing at Jack, the question of whether he should trust him hanging silently. Mia's father, visibly shaken, backed away slightly, his bravado crumbling like dry leaves underfoot. "I can't let you take them from me," he shouted, desperation clinging to his words like fog. "Everyone just take a breath," Ethan replied, raising his hands as if to physically hold back the chaos surging around them. It was as if he was trying to calm a wild animal that was cornered and had nothing left to lose. "We can talk this through. There's no need for any more violence here." Jack couldn't let this moment pass. He felt an instinctual pull to fight for Mia and her mother, to push against the wall that was her father. "She's right, sir. They don't want this. Let them go." His mouth moved before he registered how precarious the situation was becoming. Mia's father scoffed, but deep inside, Jack could see the glimmer of uncertainty. "You don't understand. You don't know what I'm dealing with." Ethan squared his shoulders, his voice dropping to a soothing tone that contrasted sharply with the urgency of the moment. "We know more than you think. We see what's happening to you, and we're here to help. But you have to let them go." For a moment, the world seemed frozen. Jack's heart raced as he watched Mia's father struggle within himself. In those brief seconds, it felt like time had unraveled, revealing the complicated threads of pain, love, and desperation woven into their lives. Then, without warning, Mia's voice cracked through the stillness. "Dad, you don't have to hide anymore. You can let us go." Desperation flared in her eyes. It was a plea from a daughter who had felt the weight of her father's turmoil for too long. Jack saw the moment it hit. Her words sunk in, clattering against his dad's hardened shell. There was a flash of something: fear? Regret? Crossing his face before he sank onto the gravel, breaking down like a dam that could no longer hold back the flood. Ethan moved quickly to his brother, kneeling and placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You're not alone. We're here. It's time to stop fighting." Jack knew the moment was delicate. They were on the brink of something momentous, but he also sensed the chaos that lingered just beneath the surface. When fear and anger evolved into something far more unpredictable, anything could happen. Suddenly, the bright lights of the cop car flickered, drawing Jack's attention. One of the officers took a step closer, wary but determined. "Sir, we need your cooperation." Jack took a step towards Mia and her mother, hoping to bridge the gap. An overwhelming desire consumed him to protect them, but also to shield them from the confusion that swirled like a storm around them. And then it happened. A soft voice broke through the night, laden with hope, cutting through the tension like sunlight breaking through clouds. "Maybe it's time for all of us to take a step back." It was Mia's mother, standing tall beside her daughter, her words carrying a weight of strength that reverberated among them. The room seemed to still. Jack felt a glimmer of hope. Would it be enough? But somewhere in the back of his mind, a whisper curled, foreboding and chilling. What would this moment cost them all? As he watched the scene unfold, he realized the night wasn't yet done with them. Secrets still loomed in the shadows, waiting to emerge. What truths would come to light, and how would they reshape their fragile lives? The flicker of uncertainty sparked in Jack's chest. He wasn't just trying to help Mia and her mother escape, now, he had the whole family on the edge. Would they finally find peace, or would this unravel into something even darker? The air was electric as Mia's mother stepped forward, her posture firm yet vulnerable, an anchor amidst the chaos unraveling around them. Jack held his breath, waiting for the reactions to unfold. Would her voice, gentle yet resolute, foster resolution, or pile on the disarray? "Mia, please," the woman implored her daughter, her eyes reflecting years of heartache. "Your father loves you, but love has twisted into something painful. We need to find a way back to each other without this violence." The soft tremor in her voice tugged at Jack's heart, echoing a longing for family he too still felt. Mia hesitated. "But, Mom," the conflict tearing at her brows. "I know," her mother said in a soothing whisper. "But this isn't just about you or me anymore. It's about all of us." Her gaze shifted to Jack, then to Ethan, understanding the weight their actions posed in this moment. "If we don't confront the pain, what hope do we have?" Jack felt inspired by her bravery. Could this really be the turning point? He could see how desperately she wanted this to end. It had taken so much for them to reach this moment. Yet he also felt the tension coiling tighter around them, sensing Mia's father's simmering rage desperately needing to break free. "Mia," her father started, voice cracking under the weight of despair. "I only want what's best for you." But the raw emotion in his words was laced with bitterness. "No, Dad." Mia's voice rang true, like a clarion call. "You think love gives you the right to control our lives? You don't own us." Jack felt pride swelling in his chest. She was standing her ground, her voice emerged not just to defy but to reclaim her power. He could feel that something brilliant was unfolding, hope igniting like a small flame in a darkened room. "Mia is right," Ethan echoed, voice low and steady. "We all have to follow love, but it begins with trusting one another." Jack's heart fluttered. They were collectively building a bridge back to each other. The rawness of the night and those tense emotions were drawing tight like strings of a bow ready to snap. For every minute they spent in this standoff, the ghosts haunting Mia's family could either forge them into a stronger bond or rip them apart entirely. At that moment, the first officer stepped forward again, his presence steadying the ground. "Sir, please, let us talk. We don't need to escalate this further." The words hung between them like a lifeline, breaking through fear with the promise of reason. "What will happen to my family?" Mia's father questioned, voice trembling as uncertainty flickered behind his eyes. "We want to protect them," the officer urged gently. "You too. But first, we all need to acknowledge where we are. There's no shame in asking for help." Mia's father, still reeling from the weight of the night, glanced at Mia and her mother, their eyes reflecting trust, a trust that had been fractured yet could be sewn back together. Jack felt the atmosphere shift, the pressure easing, just slightly, as if someone had taken their foot off a bruised bruise. "All right," he whispered finally. "Help me. Help us." A palpable wave of relief washed over Jack and the community. Tears brimmed in Mia's eyes as she moved toward her father, tentative but hopeful. "We all deserve a chance to heal, Dad." That simple truth hung in the air like a promise, a canvas waiting to be painted anew. Jack stepped back, letting the emotional confrontation unfold. He could see hope blooming in the small family before him, color returning to their lives after the shroud of darkness. Just as they embraced, sirens in the distance grew louder, and Jack turned to the officers, ready to help usher them into a new chapter. The police would have resources, connections. They could provide the support Mia and her mother so desperately needed. Jack felt gratitude ripple through him, threading together the disparate pieces of his heart. They had stood against the storm and emerged on the other side together. Slowly, as if orchestrated by an unseen hand, the crowd behind him found their feet, stepping forward, shoulders squared, fully united. As the once fractured community gathered around to support Mia, her mother and even her father, Jack stood in awe. He realized true bravery wasn't about reputation or history, it was about forging connections despite differences, facing fears together, and finding strength in vulnerability. With tears of joy streaming down his cheeks, he took a step along with them toward the hope that led the way. As the officers began guiding them away, a lingering warmth filled the night air, a sense of belonging that eclipsed fear. Jack savored the moment, knowing that this battle had ignited change, a change not just for Mia's family, but for Maplewood. With camaraderie revived, he looked down the path toward tomorrow, ready to embrace not just the challenges ahead, but the joys, too. There was more work to do for all of them, but they were no longer isolated shadows, they were a beacon of hope. So, if you felt even a fraction of the emotions experienced tonight, if you believe in the strength of community, support, and hope, this is the moment to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire transformation and courage. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your love for remarkable stories like this. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support, it makes a difference. Don't wait not even one more second to share.